Industry Season 3 has just landed in the UK, so I was going to ease into it, but I dropped everything because I saw a request. And here it is from Dr. Azygos3585. Hi, could you break down the Forex trade scene in Industry Season 3, Episode 4? Thanks. Thanks for asking, dear doctor. And we can see he's a real doctor. He's got the best. And, you know, it could be an emergency. We could be saving lives here. So let's jump straight into it. In Industry Season 3, Rishi has a lot of issues. Personal and professional.
It'll all be sorted after the budget announcement, okay?
We're not gonna go into it here. We just want to look at it from the trading angle and also what it tells us about the bank and the situation.
You're running a 625 million quid position.
Keep your fucking voice down.
We know he's got a big position in cable.
They are short cable.
The cable price is heading into the headline announcement.
And cable is the code name for the FX pair GBP USD, so British pound versus US dollar. It's called cable because of the first cable that was laid across the sea to link New York and London. And I used to trade in FX about 20 years ago. So what that means is A, I'm getting old, and B, I know a few things. The actual level of the cable now is 1.13 something as we speak. There's been some big moves on the cable when there was a change in government with Listas creating a mini crisis. So this is all inspired, at least loosely, from the reality. And that's quite nice. But I have to tell you, there are quite a few things that are wrong. First of all, we saw Rishi trading an IPO earlier. So that's equity. Now he's moving to FX. And that's really, let's say, unusual. The second thing is he's overextending his limits. And I think that's something that would be nearly impossible in a modern bank where they would monitor very carefully the limits. And that's super important because it affects the capital of the bank. If you want to learn more about it, I've got a video based on billions that I will link here. It's a plain position. He just bought 625 million. So he's long cable, short dollar. He would have to roll this position on a daily basis, right? This would be totally obvious. If he was out of the limit, he would be cut straight away. The third thing is that he's doing prop trading or proprietary trading.
I'm running my view, the view I get paid to have and enact.
And this is very rare in banks. There's very few prop traders, and they should be totally separated from the client flows. We're just going to leave it aside to go into the trade. It's conveniently indicated on screen. He's long 625 million. The price is 1.1039, and he's losing 18.37 million. I think it's useful to break it down in terms of, you know, the bips, which is the small figure here, which is going to move, and how much that affects his P&L. And here, what we see is that one bip, one little move in cable will move his P&L by 62,500. We can figure out that he was long at 1.133. And he's taken a macro position, betting on an announcement.
Coleman's a seller. Fine, that's more liquidity. No, they're thinking too long term. I'm interested in trading minutes here.
Which, again, I think it's so basic that it's not really realistic. But anyway, let's move on. Things go wrong. The cable drops. When we see the level again a bit later, he's losing up to 38 million, which I think is the peak of his loss. It's really interesting and realistic to have this kind of trading platform, which is the FX trading platform of Pierpoint. All the banks would have that. What's not realistic here is that they don't use it much and they still trade over the phone. But I'll get back to that later. Another quite interesting bit where we see a little bit behind the scenes. This is actually quite realistic. The trader, if he was an FX trader, would have all those orders that pile up and he would just play against them. He wouldn't just take a position. What's also funny is that despite all this, the buyers are on the phone to confirm, and the clients will also have the client equivalent of this platform where they could just pick the trade, put their amount, click on it, and execute.
What's your bid on 150 million Tudor?
Fuck it, I'm 80 bid.
80 bid. Yeah, done. I want to weigh 80.
And this is something that already existed 20 odd years ago when I was in FX and now has completely taken over, I believe. But anyway, we can still trade over the phone. If they trade over the phone, they would tell their size, but not their direction. they should say, give me a price in 150 million. And he would say 80, 85, for example, which would mean 1.880 on the bid, 1.885 on the offer. And the client would say 80, which means the client, sell. Here, the clients are both very archaic because they call, and also they're very kind to Pierpoint because they tell their direction.
Want your bid for 200.
30 bid on 9.
Yours.
Which means that Pierpoint can lower their bid or raise their offer depending on how they want it. We're not going to go into all that. We're just going to monitor the P&L, and we see that it goes up 150 million at 108.80 and another 200 million at 109.30.
Avatar wants your bid for 200.
30 bid on 9.
Yours. 200 on at 109.30.
See the change in figure here? When it goes so quickly, you should really say the big figure, because if you say 80 one time and then 30, people might think, oh, you know, it's 108.80 and then 108.30. But really it's 109.30 because it has moved so quickly. Those types of moves are quite unusual. That brings us to 975 million in total, almost a billion. And again, the P&L is very accurate, but luckily the FX has gone up. It's a big move, right? We're at 1.1029, and it's minus 14.77 million. If you remember well, earlier we were at 1.1039, and the P&L was minus 18.37 million, but that's because it was on the 625 million at 1.1333. Whereas here, we've added position at 108.80 and 109.30, so the overall position is bigger, but also better in average. And eventually, we come to the final offer from the client. Again, it's really not realistic that he would say, hey, someone take it off me.
Could someone get me out of this long, please? Any salesperson?
Really, he could just sell it off the market. The FX market is very electronic, very liquid, works 24/7. But conveniently, the sales really have this superpower of picking up the phone and having someone that wants to trade the right amount at the right time in the right direction.
What's your offer on a yard sterling?
70.
70. Mine.
And bam, he's executed at 113.17. If we look at the P&L, we are indeed making over 7 million from the 150 million, making about almost 9 million from the 200, and the residual from the position that you had initially.
We've made 18 million across our book.
So altogether, it's only a move from 113.33 to 113.70. Even as prop trading, it's really terrible.
You're not even a good trader. You're just lucky.
Well, it worked out really well for Rishi. He's made a big trade, but God, there's so many things that are wrong at Pierpoint with Rishi. If you want to look further into it, there's another FX trade in the industry that I've analyzed. I'll put the link. But really, if you want to understand a bit more about banking and limits, there's this video based on another series, Billions. Even if you're Bobby Axelrod, you do not want to buy a bank. And remember, guys, if you have a request, it can be a trade, but it can also be a concept. I mean, they talk about IPO, ESG, all that kind of stuff. Please let me know. I'd love to try to answer to your question and also to share your channel if you have one. It doesn't have to be industry. It can be anything else. I'd love to hear about our series with interesting trades. All right? Thanks a lot.